Well, New Hampshire voters apparently are having buyer's remorse. A new poll shows Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg narrowly beating President Biden in 2024 among Democrats in the early primary state. Joining us now is former senior Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway. It's never too early to start thinking about New Hampshire, Kellyanne. Here's this poll here, New Hampshire, on number of Democrats that don't want Biden to run again. Only 74% said no. I mean, that's a huge number for an incoming president, even before a midterm, Kellyanne.
It's a huge number, Dana and Bill. And this poll of Democrats and independents in New Hampshire was taken while President Biden was fighting COVID. I feel like members of his own party are trying to haunt and taunt him just a little too much these days. I don't know why they're trying to weaken our president and the leader of their party, but they must also see what the New York Times poll, the Quinnipiac poll, so many other polls, our own polls are showing, which is that people just don't have confidence in Joe Biden's leadership. Guess who doesn't register on that poll of 5? His vice president, Kamala Harris. Normally, your vice president is the president in waiting if you're not going to run or if you've served 2 terms. And she literally does not register. She's doing even worse than Biden when it comes to the poll position, but also when it comes to favorability. That poll in New Hampshire that you're citing, Dana and Bill, really struck me in another way. Biden's net favorability is plus 19% among Democrats and independents in New Hampshire. First primary state. So if he starts taking on water within his own party and is going to face not just headwinds in polls now, but an actual primary challenger too within his own party, that spells trouble. That can really weaken the front runner, the incumbent president. Last thing I'll say about this, thank you so much for shining a light on the horrible drug crisis, something I worked on. I led in the White House for President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. New Hampshire is still one of the hardest hit states when it comes to the opioid, fentanyl, polydrug crisis. This will be another problem, I think, for President Biden and the Democratic Party if they don't start doing what we were doing when we were in office, which is we got those overdose deaths down, we got those fentanyl seizures up just because the policies changed, and we had a lot of bipartisan support doing it. I wish someone at the White House would just build on that work because it can be done. You literally mitigate damage and save lives by doing it.
Yeah, great point there. Back to that CNN poll, Democratic voter, among Democrats who want to nominate a different candidate, 75% now are in favor of wanting someone new. Kellyanne, I'm a year student of presidential history. I can't ever remember a time. Listen. In 1979, we did not do the polling that we do today. Polling's everywhere right now, and it's big money. But when has a party collectively, one could argue, got together en masse and said, get out?
No, not this early. And not under circumstances which I actually think could be mitigated a little bit. Other presidents who have been unpopular have faced, they've been at war or they faced economic circumstances like this, but they at least try to build a little confidence within and be a man with a plan. And we don't see any of that, any of the course correction from this White House. And that, I think, is what's most surprising to me. I feel right now the only Democrats in Washington and perhaps the only people in the entire country who think Joe Biden is doing a good job and that their messaging and their facts are in balance are people in the White House. So if you don't have folks around you who are willing to say, Mr. President, this is not working, it's not been a good stretch for the home team, we need to rebuild, we need to communicate better what our plans are, I don't see anybody doing that for the president. He and the vice president simply can't do it. Once Vice President Harris gets past her pronouns, the rest of the sentence makes absolutely no sense.
Kellyanne, I wanted to ask you one thing about her. There was a report last week that both she and Gavin Newsom had been testing the waters with Wall Street, maybe seeing about getting some donations so that they could be ready to run for president. If you're a Wall Street guy and you are somebody that likes to invest in political campaigns, you look at a poll like this in New Hampshire. If the vice president of the United States comes to you and asks you for a donation, what do you think they should do?
They should say no because the market doesn't like risk. She's a huge risk, and also she's a terrible disloyalist. And she's also not good at her job. She's not doing a good job, but she's not doing the job, Dana. So why would you give her a promotion? And when I say disloyalist, she's the sitting vice president. Not only is she disloyal to Joe Biden in doing that, but she's disloyal to the country. She doesn't have a body of work that we can point to that makes us feel great about her performance in the last 18 months. If you don't believe me, believe the 15 senior staffers who have left the vice president's office. So if you're going and you're trying to convince donors to invest in you, what's the game plan? What's the deliverable? And she likes to run around and say, I'm the first woman, I'm the first vice president of color. That's great for the country. But my goodness, she has to show a body of work, and we just don't see it. That 3 or 4 things she's been put in charge of have not produced results. In fact, they're among the most vexing and perplexing issues facing America right now. And just quickly with Gavin Newsom, I don't know why he thinks we all want what he's offering there. There's been an exodus of people from California into places like Florida and Texas. He's got a high homeless and high crime problem there, a terrible economy. The rest of us don't want a $6 a gallon gasoline. The only thing I can figure is he wants to reconnect with the Californians in Florida and Texas who have left his state for greener pastures and redder states, and that's why he's running ads there.
Kellyanne, great to see you as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.